Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Welcome to Real Talk with Dr. Dean. Today we've got three really special guests. Three young 20-somethings, all new, recent graduates, very intelligent young ladies, sisters, daughters. And I really wanted the insights because as we know, we don't get to hear much about our sisters, our daughters, our girls. We don't really give them a voice in the community. So this is why we're doing this. But just to run through what we're going to be discussing today, and I'm going to try to speak very little and give them the platform because I'm not important, they are. We're going to talk about the life of a Muslim girl in the Muslim community, the reality of being 20-something, pressures of society, social media, marriage and relationships, which is an interesting one, family, another interesting topic, and the dynamics of family, mosques and what they can do for the youth, especially the girls, mental health and some solutions. And I want, and then an open discussion and Q&A at the end. And that's the way we'll roll, inshallah. So I'll just introduce the speakers to you. We've got Salma, who is a qualified counselor, Fatima, who is an LLB solicitor, and Zara, who's a pharmacist. And all of them really have engaged in the community, have always tried to help the community, and are really in touch with what's going on. And that's why I've invited them to come and speak. So let's start with the first topic, and that is life of a Muslim girl in the Muslim community. So in no particular order, I'll just start with Salma. Assalamu alaikum, Salma. And mashallah, Salma has just had recently married, had her first child, so make dua for her. And they're all new, all of them are very young, mashallah, or either married or looking to get married, inshallah. So Salma, could you tell us a bit about being Muslim? And we've had this discussion many times because you're a counselor and we've spoken about these issues. What is it like being a young Muslim lady in the Muslim community?
All right. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Dean, for inviting me today. It's an interesting discussion, actually, to talk about life of a Muslim in the Muslim community, because our community is big in this country, but we don't have such a connected interface with the Muslim community. It's sort of like when you go to the mosque, or when it's Eid, or when there's a gathering or someone's wedding. It's when you sort of see your community. You don't really see them outside of that, and that's unfortunate for us in this country. And it's sort of like what I've experienced growing up as well. It's a bit distant from sort of the close feeling that you want with the community. Let me just get my video up so you guys.
I'm just trying to put you on spotlight. Yeah, continue.
All right. Okay. So that's what I can say from my experience, and I guess from my family and sort of growing up in this country and experiencing different communities, going to university and experiencing the Muslim community in the university as well. It's a bit distant. It's not very connected. You don't feel like, people say when the ummah is hurting, we're all hurting, but we don't feel that, and it's sad that way. Yeah, so that's just sort of my take on it.
Okay, Fatima, what do you think of the Muslim community and young women like yourself? Where do you fit in?
Yeah.
Are we doing enough? Yeah.
I agree with what Salma's saying. Do you know what I think is, it's not a very Islamic community. I find that it's more cultural. Like she said about weddings, we only meet with on weddings. If there's family stuff, I don't think there is much for Muslim girls to actually expand in the community. Having youth group, we did have a youth group in Harrow Mosque before. That was really good. That was different ages of girls coming and everything, but I don't think there is much for us. And then when we have uni, we end up in small ISOCs and small communities like that. It's very hard to kind of find one that's very easy to go to and access for us girls to go.
Okay, thanks for that. And Zara, what do you think? What are your first thoughts about Muslim community and young Muslim women?
Yeah, assalamu alaikum. What I did find is growing up, we didn't have as much. I think that what we were really lucky with is we had, as Fatima mentioned, we had Pearls of Paradise, and that was a first sort of like collated community that girls could go to. And because obviously as Muslims, we all share very similar backgrounds and how we should be living life. We should be living towards the same sort of deen. We had, all of us were coming together in that sort of circle, and that was the first sort of interaction I had with people out of my family to engage as a Muslim girl. And then once that obviously like that went through, the next stage that I saw that was at uni. And I have to say, from my experience at uni, my eye circle was really nice, because I went to University of Hertfordshire, and their eye circle was very friendly, and there was a lot of effort made from younger students to sort of engage in Islamic morals and like lifestyle. But what I find a bit troubling now is, as society is progressively, I don't think is going very well at the moment, is the younger generation, the younger girls with the problems they're facing with social media and pressures from like society and stuff. There needs to be a stronger effort or a stronger force of like Muslim women sort of starting more clubs and more things for girls to engage in, rather than going with things that are not is that like exactly very beneficial for them. Because we were lucky to have that Pearls of Paradise, and we could go there every week, and girls used to talk about their problems, and they used to meet friends that they would be so excited to see. But I don't see that possible for the younger generation, and I think we had it quite lucky, but I can't see a good future for these girls, and that's what I find quite worrying. And we kind of had to take that stand to do it for other girls. So I think that's something that really needs to be focused on, I think.
Thank you, Zara. Just for you, those of you that don't know, Pearls of Paradise was a Dr. Dean Youth Solution youth club for girls that we ran for about 4 years in Harrow Mosque. And it was for older girls. A lot of youth clubs, they get 12-year-old kids in there because the older ones don't want to come. But these were up to university age young women that were coming to this youth club. So from high school up to uni. So it was really interesting. Every week they'd have a different activity, and that really did transform lives. And we
Honestly,
got
brilliant.
that
It's
feedback.
really good, yeah. Because there was like discussions across the whole board, and the girls used to come and they used to discuss things that you could tell they were reluctant to discuss with other people, and they were intrigued in learning about what Islam says about different topics and stuff. And because we had the resources for that, we're very lucky, but we don't see that often anywhere else. It was almost like a once in a lifetime sort of opportunity, but that shouldn't be like that. That should be available across the whole board. You hear about scouts, and obviously I know you do the Muslim scouts for boys as well, but that is available for a lot for boys, but there's not enough for girls, I think.
Thank you. Excellent feedback, Zara. So the reality of 20-somethings, you've explained a bit of that. Let's move on to the actual pressures. And I've had discussions with all of you about the pressures and the fact that people are unaware of what you're going through. And this is I'm always screaming at the top of my lungs, that why don't people understand the kids are going through hell, i.e. the environment is so challenging. Can you tell us a bit about what it's like when you go out in the big wide world? What are the pressures like, for example, from social media, from society? What is the pressure, Salma? Could you tell us a bit about the pressures on young girls?
Yeah, for sure. So I think we've discussed this before, actually, and you make point to it quite a lot of times. It's the idea that you have two faces to society, and I guess it's not the formal informal, but it's actually two different faces, and you have two different lives that you live. And I guess I was a victim to that too growing up. Like, you had a phase of like, oh, I'm this really religious girl, who goes to the mosque and I don't make any mistakes. And you create this sort of like unrealistic expectation of yourself. And so when you come out of that, when you go back into university, when you go back into school life or whatever, your friend's life, it's really difficult to live up to that. And then you start to slip. And this visual culture becomes more important than what religion really means to you and what it really should mean to you, in that sense. And I think that is one of the biggest pressures that I feel women feel, like girls our age feel, the pressure to live up to standards that is unattainable. So you've got to be this girl that's either if you're religious, then that's your category, and if you're not religious, then this is your category, and you sort of fall into those two different embodiments of characterization. And so your self views become different as a result of that. But it's difficult.
So you mentioned something about a double life, Salma. Is it,
yeah, that's what I meant. The two faces, a double life.
Yeah, thank you. And Fatima, what's your thoughts on the pressures of society?
I I've always thought, I think social media is the biggest evil, especially for girls. And in terms of the two-faced thing, I don't think people realize that people only put their best face forward,
Mhm.
and then us girls, we feel insecure that we're not at the right point in life, or in terms of our looks, in terms of our wealth, and just any status in life. We're just always compared, we're never content. And I do believe that social media is definitely the biggest problem for us, because everyone is only showing the good side of their lives, and no one's really seeing the reality of things. And then when you're trying to look a certain way for other people, you really lose yourself.
Yeah, 100%.
Wow. So Fatima, you don't have a Lamborghini to show off?
Um,
Okay. All
soon.
right.
No,
Zara, what are your thoughts on press? Because this really amazes me. I mean, I was on TikTok. I've left TikTok now. It's so addictive. But you see a lot of youth in Lamborghinis and you think that's normal.
Yeah.
When it's not. Sometimes they're hired, they use others, they rent them. They don't, like you said, it's a fake life. But Zara, what are your thoughts on that?
I think
On the
what,
pressures youth are going through?
hold on. Yeah, sorry, I thought I'd turn my video on. It's easy
Yeah.
like this. One thing I found, which I found quite shocking, is because obviously, like, alhamdulillah, I've got like a good work life and I went to university and stuff as well. And even coming across Muslims, if I ever tried to engage in salah or ever tried to do something that was remotely sort of religious, well, I say religious, or anything to follow the deen, the immediate reaction was, oh, so you're quite religious then, isn't it? And it will be basic things, things like you think that you should be following on a standard level, people will take it as not extremist, but like, oh, she's very religious, and it would kind of like alienate you. And in this sort of society, you shouldn't feel alienated for doing something that's got to do with you, do with your deen. But I found like a lot of Muslims used to do that as well, because everyone obviously has their own level of iman and everyone's trying. But I feel like we sort of need to be reminded that somebody else thinking something is so-called extremist or religious, you shouldn't feel like that alienates you or that that's a bad thing. If you're trying on your deen, then you should continue on that. So yeah, I just found that was one pressure. And the other thing I think is with dressing, something like modest dressing, for example. If you ever try to make an effort with dressing in a certain modest way, it's sort of, you're seen as almost prude. And social media right now is very much less is more. And modest clothing as well is what I've also noticed. There's a trend that modest clothing has been made into like a designer thing, and I personally, I don't agree with that at all. There shouldn't be sort of like particular designer levels for abayas that are 90, 100 pounds plus, because realistically, how many girls can afford that? If you're a 16, 17-year-old girl and you're trying to dress modestly and to look acceptable in society, you have to spend 60, 70 pounds plus on an abaya. That's not something that's very desirable. It's not something that I think is fair on girls that are trying to dress modestly.
So dressing modestly is expensive?
Yeah. More than normal.
Wow.
100%.
So it's cheaper to dress.
You can find a £10 top, but there'll be a slit somewhere, or there'll be a hole in an area where you don't want it to be. But if you want to wear like a long modest dress from Zara, you're looking at £40 plus. And if you need a whole cupboard of that, some girls can't afford that, and it's not their fault. But then what happens is then they end up going for the cheaper options, and they're not always modest. So that's something I really struggled when I started wearing the hijab. When you have to try and accommodate that to your clothing, I really found that difficult. I found that summer was layering upon layering, and I know there's more sawab for it, but some people don't have that in them, and it shouldn't be made difficult for them, I think.
Okay. Really amazing feedback. I want people to hear that, because it's so key to hear your opinions and your experiences. Moving on from social media, just a few questions about the whole beauty image and what you see. I mean, I'll give you an example. You've heard of Kylie Jenner and the other terrible one. What's her name? The one who's the young billionaire. What's her name?
That's Kylie Jenner, yeah.
Is that Kylie Jenner? Okay. So she's had about something like 22 surgeries on her body. So plastics and all kinds of alterations.
Probably more, to be honest. That's just the one we know about.
Then Photoshop, and then you got this WAP or WAP thing going on, whatever it is, that disgusting. This is the kind of stuff that's mainstream normal. And if you see these Photoshopped images and you're sitting at home with your Pakistani, Bengali, Somali family, and you know, you're looking at this in your bedroom and your parents really don't know what you're looking at, and you're feeling, can you have a sense of insecurity when you look at these things, or feel any sort of low self-esteem? Is that possible?
100%.
Put that to Salma first.
Yeah, I think so. And I think I talked about earlier the visual culture. So on Instagram, or it's like wherever you're exposed to this sort of perfect body, perfect sort of face, perfect even a skin tone, you start, the more you see it, the more you're like, okay, this is what I want to be, this is what I need to attain. And it becomes like unattainable. Obviously it's unattainable for everyone to have that. You can't, you know, everyone can't go through surgeries to look like Kylie Jenner, to look like these people on Instagram. So it does make you feel very insecure. And believe it or not, it's actually something that, you know, if you go to school, everyone's trying to dress like them, trying to look like them. Even the makeup, the way they do it is to make it look like them. You know, we had this obsession with big lips, and you know, now it's like, you know, cheekbones. I don't know, it's just continuously morphing into something that's the idea of perfect, and that's represented by these people on Instagram, on social media, and etc. And it will definitely chip away at your self-esteem. You're gonna look at yourself and you don't have that skin tone, you don't have those cheeks, you don't have those eyes. What are you going to feel like? You're going to feel like you're not beautiful, you're not good enough, you're not enough to be successful in any way. And that's really sad.
And how's that low self-esteem going to impact you in life?
You won't put yourself forward. You're going to lose confidence. You know, you're going to, it eats away at you. And, you know, mentally, you're going to feel like if you don't look like them, there's no way you're going to be successful. And then you stop putting your effort forward, and you stop, you know, doing things that would make you happy. And when your self-esteem is not right, then, you know, nothing's really going to work in your favor. You're not going to be able to do work, you're not going to be able to study, you're not going to be able to be that person, the leader of your society, of your home. You're not going to be able to do any of that. And that's sad if you can't.
And do our families understand that in our communities when girls go through that?
Probably not. Probably, I mean, it's sad, but the Asian culture encourages, like, you know, make yourself look fairer, make yourself look like this, make yourself, you know, wear a certain way so that, you know, you look like everyone else. And, you know, the society unfortunately encourages that too. And I know that in my culture, in the Sri Lankan culture, being fair is more like loved.
It's all over the world. Yeah.
Brown. Yeah. And so people look at me, they're like, oh, you don't look Sri Lankan, you're like, you're not as brown as most Sri Lankans. You get those comments, and it's really sad, because what's wrong with being brown and beautiful? There's nothing wrong with that.
Or black and beautiful.
Exactly.
Fatima, what's your thoughts on that? The pressures of seeing these images, or even billboards and advertising, what does it make young girls feel?
I feel like, again, you lose yourself. Like, you have this pressure, you know, you spend so much money on makeup, on, you know, clothes. And I know you were saying about Kylie Jenner, but I do also think there's Muslim influencers, like, well, I'm not going to mention the names, but, you know, the ones who have taken off their hijabs, you know, the ones who have become less modest. And then that, as a Muslim girl, you're going to look at that and you're going to think that's okay. And no one really, and then when someone confronts someone like that, they kind of say, you know, I'm on my own journey, you know, only Allah can judge me. And it makes it a lot harder for girls to know what's right. And then you do see girls with clear skin. You have this set mind on what you think is beautiful. And I think the pressure to live up to that is very difficult, because you kind of spend every day of your life to try and look like that. And then you're not, I feel like people are definitely working on the exterior, on how they look, rather than on how they actually are as people.
Wow. And Zara, what are your thoughts on the pressures to look a certain way?
Yeah, I think it all goes down to when you compare yourself to someone. It can be one person or 100 people. So long as you compare yourself to someone else, you always find something wrong, because someone is living a different life to you. It will never be the same as yours. But if you look at someone else, it's always going to be the grass is greener on the other side. But if you can't find contentment in yourself, then you're never going to have sukoon at all. And I feel like social media doesn't help that situation at all, because you look online, and like Fatima was saying really well, that people only put up what they want you to see. So you'll see a car, it will be a rental car, but they'll make it as if it's their own car. And someone who's working a a good 9 to 5 job, is doing a humble earning, will say, well, that person got the car the same age as me, why can't I get that car? Or that girl gets flawless skin as soon as she wakes up in the morning, but we don't know that she goes for £60 facials every single week. And these are things that you, so long as you keep comparing, you're never going to be happy with yourself. But it is difficult. I mean, we all do it. I do it all the time. And I think at one point, I think I was following the wrong sort of people. I was only following people on Instagram that made me feel bad about myself. And one of my friends, she constantly said that as soon as I unfollow those people and I changed the people that I was watching, I felt myself feel better, and I felt myself feel more
Wow.
confident in myself, because I stopped seeing what made me look so bad.
Wow.
And that really, really helped. I think that was something that I think people, if you are feeling like you are comparing yourself online, just unfollow people that make you feel bad about yourself, and you'll
Great.
feel.
What brilliant advice. So unfollow those that make you feel bad about yourself or inferior in any way. So that's excellent advice for anyone listening. Let's move on to a topic that a lot of you don't like talking about, but I'm really passionate about, and that's relationships and marriage. And I want to get into this because let's face reality. I've been doing this for over a decade. Dating, is it the norm amongst Muslim girls? Because we talk about boys, and girls are always secluded from this discussion. Muslim boys, majority of them, they all go through, they date, and they normally date Muslim girls. So why is it that we can't see girls, Muslim girls? Is it because we have this image of hijab and Muslim and piety that we think Muslim girls, when they go to uni, they don't do anything? It's very, very contrary to what I've seen with my own eyes and thousands of messages over the years. So what is it like? What is the dating scene like that you guys have seen at a uni campus, outside, on the phone? What is it like? Let's be real about this, because people are in complete denial.
Okay, I'll start.
Salma? Sorry, yeah, Salma.
I think it's definitely become a norm. It is like the thing is, right, they've construed it in a way where it's like, oh, I've got a boyfriend, but I have intentions of marrying this person, so it's okay. Like, I can talk to him, I can text him. Like, that's what it's become. It's become normal to talk to someone in a romantic way, be in a relationship, because your intentions are one day I'll marry them. So it becomes sort of like a norm that way. And I've actually, that's very, very popular even when I was at university, which was not long ago. And they've sort of made it okay religiously. So, okay, we know it's haram to be in a haram relationship, but because, you know, one day I'm going to marry this person, it's all okay. Everything that I'm doing is suddenly okay. It's suddenly halal. And you do miss out, because you look at a Muslim, obviously for a girl, it's obvious that you're Muslim, you're wearing headscarf, or you're, you know, however you dress, it's quite obvious. So you just immediately go to think, oh, okay, it's, you know, you're not going to do anything wrong. But it's funny because when I speak to like my classmates who are non-Muslim, and they like to me, oh, so are you dating someone? You know, back when I was like, well, no, we don't really date. Muslims don't do that. They're like, oh, okay, well, I know all of my other Muslim friends are dating.
Muslim friends,
so what are you, like an extremist Muslim? Are you like someone who doesn't like, you know, it's become this confusion, because even they're confused as to what kind of Muslim I am, because I don't go into the dating scene. But yeah, it's become a norm, and I would say that, yeah.
Fatima, what are your thoughts on that?
I do agree. I think it definitely is the norm. But I don't know. This isn't me not blaming the couples. Obviously, you know, haram is haram.
Yeah.
But I do believe if someone has the intention, you know, if you say you find the right person, you find the right man, I do believe the families and the communities do make it very difficult for young people to get married. Like, for example, if they are outside the culture, or not even in the caste, they make it hard when Islamically it's okay, and they, you know, of course they have the intentions to get married, but when they actually want to put this forward, it's not allowed by their families. And I think that's what makes people go into relationships for years and years and years, because their families aren't letting them get married.
Okay. Zara, thank you for that, Fatima. Zara?
I think what I found at uni, because I went to uni for 5 years, and I went to 2 different unis, so I think the type of people at the 2 different unis were quite different. One thing I did find, it was it was like split in the middle. So there were some girls who went to university for the sake of going to university, did not mix with the opposite gender. They were there to get their education. They had lots of girlfriends. They had a social life. They weren't completely recluses. They didn't just not do anything at all, but they were involved with their friends. And then on the other side, and I feel like this goes down to insecurity again, the other side, there were girls who I think were so, I don't know if it was insecure in themselves or insecure in on something else, but it was almost like their mission to find a husband at uni, which at the end of the day, you're destroying yourself, because when you put down your barrier and you say to yourself, oh my God, I need to go find myself a husband at university, you almost let yourself go for anything. And then you kind of forget what your values are, that what you think is good for yourself. And then when you don't have like parental influence and stuff, you end up making rush decisions. And then obviously there's just, I think, a bit of a mess there. And I think, again, that goes down to societal pressure, like Salma was saying. When everyone around you has got a partner and it's just you by yourself, and then you're thinking, is there something wrong with me? Am I the one that's backwards? Am I ugly? Am I unattractive? And then people obviously end up thinking, you know what, I need to find someone to make me feel good about myself. But when you go to university, that, and obviously my dad has always said to me, he's like, when you go to uni, that won't benefit anybody but yourself. That education will only, it will be with you for the rest of your life. Don't mess that up for anybody else. And I think, again, this is something girls need to remember, that boys come and go. There are marriage proposals everywhere, but if you spend your uni years looking for boys and talking to boys and thinking, oh, boys are gonna like me, you know, they're gonna take me out on a date and stuff, you'll miss out the most important years of your life, because the amount of education and awareness you get and the people you meet during that time are so invaluable, that focusing on something like marriage, it shouldn't be there. Allah will bring rishta to you in a way that He thinks is good for you. Don't chase it for yourself. And I think it boils down to insecurity. I think when girls are insecure, they end up chasing something and they let their standards down and stuff as well, I think.
Thanks for that.
Add to that what she said about self.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that's so important, because a lot of these girls are looking for someone to love them, because it's missing from home. And it's really sad if you think about it. Like, they're looking for someone to say, look, oh, I love you and I love the way you look, or they're looking for this comfort that they don't get from home. And when they don't get it from home, they're gonna go looking for it somewhere else. And that's university, that could be a high school, it could be anywhere. And we have to take responsibility for that, you know, like for your sisters, for your kids. If you're unable to give them that love and affection, they're definitely going to go look for it somewhere else, and unfortunately in the wrong ways, in the wrong.
Okay, so all three of you said it's quite the norm that Muslim girls date. I'm talking about girls today because that's the topic. So why is it that when I talk to Muslim communities, mosques, everyone's in denial, no one wants to listen? It's like, it's impossible. What are you talking about? I even get accused of making this up almost, yeah? Because they just can't fathom it. So my problem is, how are we going to help all you women navigate life, marriage, dating, you know, other races and marriages? And how can we help you if we don't even know what's going on? And this is my point. I'm still on the awareness campaign, because we're not even near solutions yet. We don't even know what's going on. And that was the point of today. So what I would like to know from all of you is, when it comes to this marriage, because everyone has their own situation. Some kids, they don't have family in this country. They're looking for someone at uni. Others have a big family that's going to help them get married. So everyone has their own situation. But what do you think would help when everyone, meaning the majority, are dating? What would help to not go down that route? What would help?
Oh, that's a big question. I'm trying to think. I think, again, this is just from my experience. I think, alhamdulillah, I was very lucky with the circle of friends that I had. And I think it does go down to your company, because like I said, at university, it wasn't complete wipeout of everybody was dating and there was one person for the other person and everyone was in that situation. I had one of my best friends was married before she came to university. She had a son in her first year. One of my
it can be hard to do, right? A lot of people
can be hard to do, of course. Again, that's not something I would recommend. That's not something I would say don't do. That was something that I think worked for her, and alhamdulillah, I think she's happy at the moment. I know one of my friends got married in her last year, to a family friend back home in Pakistan, and she's just as happy as my friend who got married at the beginning of uni. So it's all different. It's not completely across the same. And I know girls who have dated for 3, 4, 5+ years. So again, I think if you have friends who are aware of Islam, friends will guide you based on what Deen will say to you. So what I found as well, like even with myself, if I ever had any advice, every friend who came to me with advice didn't just give it based on what, I don't know, someone online had said to me. It was always went back to Deen. And because I heard that to me was reassurance that, you know what this person is saying, it will benefit me, because it goes back to what my religion says. So if you make intention to Allah that Allah put people around me that are going to help me long term, then at the end of the day, when you go to university, you will only be surrounded by people who will want good for you for the sake of Allah. And I think that is something that's really important, that if there are girls who are on this group, or their parents who've got girls who are going to start university soon, inshallah, that if you make the intention that they've got good friends, I think good friends makes or breaks someone.
So good friends is the solution, is part of the...
I started university in my first year, sorry to cut you off there. I started university, I went to Kingston for a year, and I wasn't observing the hijab. I was, I don't know if it's the right word, but I had my hair out and everything, and I was quite a modern girl. And I started Hertfordshire, and I made these friends on my course, and they were wearing hijab, they were praying salah, and we went for Jummah salah in the building at uni. And I was wearing like a short top almost above my like jeans, and my hair was all highlighted and up, and I had makeup, and I'm walking into the hall, and all my friends were having very simple makeup, wearing a scarf, wearing abayas, and I was the only one not dressed like that. And I walked out, and that was, to me, the turning point. I thought to myself, what are you doing? You were the only girl that was dressed like that, and you were going to go pray. And that, to me, because I didn't have that influence in Kingston, when I went to Hertfordshire, it bothered me. And I thought to myself, if you can't keep going on thinking that the way you are is okay. But that only went down to because my friends changed. And then alhamdulillah, about a week or two later, I started wearing the hijab, and I started making more effort to do more distance stuff.
Just a few comments. Somebody said, I find it a little bit concerning that Muslim girls who are seeking marriage are regarded as insecure. What would you say to that?
I mean, I wouldn't say insecure because you're looking for marriage, but if you're looking for a haram relationship.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, that was the difference. Sorry if
What I've seen as a lecturer, what I've seen, so between high school and university, what I've seen is a lot of insecurity in girls generally, not just Muslim. And what I see is like literally girls looking for attention and quote unquote throwing themselves at guys, love me, like me. And I think it's to do with the social media pressures as well, and being liked, and a lack of that love from the dads or from home also impacts that. Moving on to the family connections, and I'm talking about people that you know, not necessarily yourselves, but your own experiences. You all have lots of friends, mashallah. What have you seen amongst your conversations that you've had? And just one before I forget, that Zara, you told me about once that you're having a discussion at uni with lots of girlfriends, and the girls were talking about working and after marriage. And the question was, if you found a husband that can provide or was wealthy, would you work? Yeah. And what was the response to that? Just out of interest.
Yeah, I should remember this. So I remember there was just a general discussion about like after marriage, like what are your plans, what would you do? And there are some girls who were like, even if my husband was earning a lot, I would still go out to work. And a couple of us were like, oh, okay, like what, just to pass time and stuff, or to earn money? And they were like, no, just because my husband's working doesn't mean that I can go to work, which I do agree. I think women shouldn't sit at home and just be idle, because when you're idle, shaitan loves it when you're idle, because at the end of the day, you start picking up things like gossiping and doing stupid things like staying on TikTok for 8 hours a day, like there's things that are not beneficial for you. But I think what women need to remember, maybe, again, I'm not married, so I don't know this completely exactly what married life is like, so I'm sorry if I have the misconceptions or anything, but what I think is that when it comes to when children become involved, that's when women, I think, should be more focused on the home, and to be able to like take that into account more, because I know a lot of women as well who are battling between having children and saying that I still want to work full time. And I know a couple of women like that as well, and that's caused a lot of tension in their houses and stuff. But I think with working, I think that's a bit of a
Yeah, I mean, it's on the individual. Yeah, it's not. There's no sort of
right or wrong answer at all, I think.
Yeah, my point of asking the question wasn't actually to make a judgment on that. It was actually that in my days, all pretty much across the board, all women, Muslim or not Muslim, would say, I'd like to have a man who can earn so I don't have to work. And that's really changed. So even if you are comfortable financially, women still want to go to work. I just found that interesting. And I thought I'd bring that up just about trends and mindset changes. Are there any other mindset changes that you think have happened in your generation compared to your mum's generation, or what our dean says? Is there anything that you can think of that's changed, do you think?
I'm just going to comment on just something that
Yeah, go on.
Lara just said. I had a friend, so in terms of whether women should stay at home when they're married and if they should go to work, I had a friend who was brought up in a way that her mum would tell her, you don't ever take money from a man, and so in that way a man will never owe you. So I don't know, I personally found that really, really odd. I feel like it's Islamically, I'm sure everyone knows, his money is my money is my money. Why would you not take advantage of that? Why would you not? Like you were saying, the difference between my mum's generation and my generation now, I do think that women are told to be more independent now. But I think there's one extreme where you're like a feminist independent, and then there's an extreme, like another extreme where you're just at home doing nothing. But I do think women should make their own places in society, in their families as well. But like I agree, go out. I do definitely think that when you have children, it's your priority to stay at home and work on your house and your family and your children. And I think at that point, that's when you should. Well, this of course my opinion, but I think at that point you should kind of.
Okay, thanks. That's really, really interesting insights there. Now let's talk about mosques. We spoke about Pearls of Paradise. We had a youth club in the mosque for 4 years, almost 5 years. But like you said, it's not really the norm. What mosques do you find mosques attractive? Are they the place to go? Is it the place to hang out? What are your thoughts, Salma, on that?
For me, I went to University of East London, so most of my time I spent socializing in East London, and I actually joined a group. It was called Young Leaders Group or something like that, and we spent a lot of time in the masjid. Actually, most of our classes, our courses, everything was happening from the masjid. So for me, it was positive in that light. Like I was able to escape to that place and sort of mix with different people.
Which masjid was that?
It was the Whitechapel one, the big one.
Oh, East London Masjid, Whitechapel. Okay.
So for me it was, but obviously where I live back here in Harrow, it hasn't been so active. My association growing up has been with the Sri Lankan mosque, and what I remember is going to madrasa, learning Quran. Like there was just the basic. There wasn't much like, oh, I feel like I'm involved in the community. I feel like, oh, this is a group of girls I can rely on, or a family that I see like my masjid family. I don't think I had that very strongly as I did with my uni gang, I guess, in East London. So for me, that's been my experience.
Okay, and Zara?
Yeah, I think one thing that I found, which I found quite surprising, is that as Salma was saying, the society that I found at university was actually really nice. The ISOC that I had at uni, they had a lot of events. They used to have a lot of speakers coming over. They used to have a lot of charity nights where they used to discuss like specifically for women, and then obviously specifically for men, but I didn't go to the men's ones. But the women's ones are really nice. They used to have like pamper nights, but then they used to talk about how important it is to build confidence in Islam. So I think we had a lot there. Local mosque, I think the Wednesday circle that is in the Sri Lankan mosque, I think that does need to be appreciated, because that circle is really nice. And I used to go every single week, but then obviously university kind of got in the way. But that circle was really nice, and I thought that was something that it was a sort of sense of community that I felt like I didn't have a lot of growing up. And it was nice at this age, because then you can meet people that you saw when you were younger, and you grow up, and then you see them how they are now. And I think it's just I wish there was just more activities in the hometown. I think university kids are eager, kids want to do it, but masjid should be making more effort to be doing it like across the whole board, I think.
Okay, thank you. And Fatima, what's your thoughts on mosques?
Yeah, I do agree. I don't think there is many things going on in the mosque for us. And I think with uni, of course, when you have the right friends, you're definitely going to do more good things, like go to talks. Like I remember, I think it was Muhammad Hoblos. He came to East London for a talk, and so we went there. From like the ISOS told us that he was talking, and I do think that it doesn't have to be Islamic talks. I don't think everyone should, kind of focus on like going to Islamic talks all the time. I think there can be other activities like, go ape, and as long as you bring in
halal fun, basically.
Yeah.
Like.
And I don't think that there is anything. I think with Pearls of Paradise there was, and of course now there is the Wednesday Circle and the Sri Lankan Mosque as well. But apart from that, I don't really know of anything. And even my friends who live in East London, they have the East London Mosque, who does a lot more than I can say Harrow Mosque does. Harrow Mosque, I feel like, is an empty building.
Let's not name the mosques, because there's thousands, hundreds of mosques, and we could really go on forever. There's a very, very small number of mosques actually do anything very active for youth. We know that already. But the point is, what you're saying is that there needs to be more done from the mosque, especially for the women. And my experience has been that even if we do something for the youth, it's normally for the boys and not the girls. And we need to change that mindset.
Someone said something about a female committee, which I think is a really good point, I think, because the female committee will know what's good for the females, I think, and they can sort of bring it up to the main like HQ, if that makes sense, in the masjids. I think that's a good point, that a female committee maybe could be helping, which I have found in a couple of masjids as well, that you can go back to like a head sister almost. So I have found that in a couple of masjids and stuff, and that does seem to help, because sometimes you don't want to go to them, you don't feel as open to be able to go to an imam, and you want to go to a sister who's able to give you like the same level of advice. And I think I called once, I think East London Mosque had a really good sister committee and stuff as well. So there's a couple of masjids that have had that, and I think that's a good point.
That's brilliant. Let's talk about solutions now, but just before that, mental health and my own experiences in regard, and then I just want you guys to give me your feedback. We live in a world today where mental health is obviously at the forefront of a lot of services. We talk about safeguarding in colleges, universities, and welfare, well-being, and all these terminologies and words that we're using. But I'm going to speak to Salma first, because she's a qualified counselor. How much of these problems are just problems or just sadness, and how much of it is actual issues? And how do we differentiate? Because I just had a call 2 days ago from a 30-year-old man who went through a lot in his early 20s. He wasn't depressed, he just was working out life. It was the transition to adulthood, uncertainty, and he wasn't actually depressed. He was just stressed and sad. And what's the difference between the two? There's definitely people that are depressed. There's definitely people with anxiety. And Salma, can you just highlight that, please? How do we know the difference?
Okay, so I mean, it's difficult to define, because obviously what people feel are very real to them. But like you said, the lifestyle can have a real effect on how you feel. And I know a lot of us through this pandemic struggled a lot to feel good, to get out. We were allowed to do any of the stuff that we are normally allowed to do to keep our mental health in check. So I think that lifestyle check, make sure that whatever you're doing, you're staying active and you're keeping yourself active. Like what Zara said, don't be idle, and that's really difficult in this time and space at the moment. But it comes down to lifestyle. So you have to do things in your life that are motivating, inspiring, and not just the goal of whatever you're doing can't just be for today or tomorrow. It has to be long term. What is your long term plan for yourself, in terms of, goals, and what's your vision in life? You need to, like, all of that needs to be part of your plan for life. And if you're unable to do that, you get stuck with what's happening today, what's happening tomorrow, and that becomes an endless cycle of you just feeling sad, upset, not seeing a future, and it just keeps going round and round, and then it becomes, it turns into depressive moods, depressive states, and also ultimately depression. So to prevent these kind of things, you've got to actually have insight, first of all, understand, look, I'm on this trajectory where I'm, feeling certain things, and I'm not feeling motivated, I'm not feeling good about myself, and I need to change that. You need to sit down and think to yourself, am I feeling this? Is this where it's going to go? You need to be able to see that. Once you gain some insight into that, then you can sort of pave your path to change it, maybe even to feel better. That being said, some people obviously, even with all of that consideration, they might still feel sad, they might still feel upset, and that's when you need to actually get professional help, to speak to someone who is who can help you feel better, whether that be a doctor or a counselor. But you've got to stop being so, what's the word, day to day, you know what I mean? Like, it's, think about your life on, like, from now to like 10 years, plan it out, give yourself goals that are attainable, and that should sort of put you in a place where you feel a bit motivated to do something with your life.
Thanks for the advice on preventative measures and not just symptom treatment, but actually what are the causes of these issues, some of these issues. Zara, what are your thoughts on the stresses of being a young lady, growing up, uncertainty, all those things?
I think on the back of what Salma was saying is, I think there is more awareness of mental health, I think, now, but I think there needs to be more. I still think there needs to be more awareness. And I know there is a lot more than it was, I'm sure, in your generation. But I know a lot of people around my age, slightly younger, slightly older, who genuinely do deal with these problems like this, whether it's anxiety, depression, bipolar, OCD. I've seen quite a few, and I've seen in my own, like, in front of my own eyes. And I mean, it's not nice. I mean, when we're not particularly very old, we're quite young, we've still got our futures ahead of us. And to see these things sort of become a barrier of you becoming the best version of yourself is something that's not very nice to see. So I think alhamdulillah, I'm really lucky in my family that there is a lot of awareness, and we have so many discussions. Like, my granddad will do talks on Fridays, and we'll talk about these things, and my uncles and my aunties and everything will talk, and we say, right, what's the problem right now? What's happening with anxiety? What's happening with depression? What are you guys thinking? But I know there are certain families who don't have that privilege at all. They have no one to talk to. They have no one to sort of discuss these things with. And I think this is where these sort of things that we're doing at the moment, this talk that we're doing right now, it kind of gives people that sort of like option to sort of open up. And I think even myself, like, if anyone came across to me and said, look, I just want to have someone to talk to, I would want, like, straight away I would say, of course, you can come meet me, you can message me something. But there needs to be more options for people to have outlets and to express what they're feeling, so that they can get help in the first place. Too many people bottle things up inside themselves, and then when you bottle things up inside yourself, it goes down to shaitan. Shaitan makes you believe that you're a sinner, you're never gonna get better, everything is because of yourself, Allah doesn't love you, astaghfirullah. All these things go into your head, and then it's just a bit of a black hole, to be honest. So I think talking to people is probably the biggest thing. And I think as Muslim women, we need to be more close-knit, that we can give people that sort of outlet and say, you know what, if you want to come talk to me, I know you don't know me as a person, but I can help you in whatever way you need, to be honest.
Great. Fatima, what are your thoughts on mental health, anxiety, depression, stresses of life growing up?
I agree with what Zara just said. It's so important to have someone to go to. And I think as women, obviously, we stay at home more. I think it's very important that our families also understand a bit more. Obviously, like she said, that there is awareness, but just a bit more, like, not to kind of undermine it too much. And I do think that, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Sorry. what we were saying?
Yeah, it's about mental health and growing up, stresses of life, anxiety, bipolar, OCD.
Yeah,
Any thoughts on that?
I feel like, for example, with social media, that's a really big impact on your mental health and, you know, insecurity and anxiety. And of course, if you have an outlet to go to, you know, amongst us other women, we can just go to each other and talk about it. I think it will make it a lot easier for all of us.
Okay. I'm gonna bring up a question about mental health, and I see there's two camps. So there's those that say, you know, make your du'as and pray to Allah, and you know, you've got weak faith and that's why you're suffering. And then there's those who say get professional help. And professional help, by the way, doesn't include the faith aspects. So they're both have pros and cons to it. But what do you think of that? Because if you go to your counselor and they don't understand, for example, you lose your job, and we believe in risk. Risk is written, it's your destiny, and no one can change the amount you're going to earn. Although it's stressful, Allah always has a plan for you. Now, that's not a part of what you're going to get from formal counseling, right? If it's not Muslim counseling. On the other hand, someone can say, well, why don't you have faith and don't go to the counseling? Which is also wrong, but you need to see the professionals. So what are your thoughts on those two camps, and where can we meet? Salma.
That's actually a topic that's come up quite a lot, like the question of, oh, you know, you're feeling depressed because you have low iman, and that's, you know, people say that quite a bit, and it's unfortunate that they see it so distinct like that. Like your mental health is something that you have to take care of, and if the professional can help you with the mental health aspect of it, you know, your mood, your depression, your the emotional state, they can do that. But your faith is something different to your mental health. I mean, it's connected, but your faith is something that, you know, you believe, that you choose to do, you choose to live, you choose to feel. Obviously someone who's having severe mental health illnesses, everything might be compromised in terms of, you know, their ability to make decisions, their ability to remember things, so they do need that sort of formal help. The faith help should come from a different like part of themselves, whether it be from like their friends, their family, however it is that they learn about their religion. That should be encouraged more. There is like an overlap between the two. For example, Islamic counseling is available for people who, you know, who want to strengthen both their faith and their mental health, and they can look at the two of that. But that is a real it's a good point actually, because when you do go for general counseling, sometimes if you say, look, your faith is a problem, they might take you away from the faith, and it's an issue, and you have to be aware of that before you accept to go into counseling like this. It is something to think about. However, if you you are responsible at the end of the day for your faith, as you are for your health, and whatever, wherever you go to get help, you need to know that these are things that you're responsible for. So if you're going to go for someone, to a counselor who's going to make you feel like you don't need religion to feel okay, then that's what they're going to do. They're going to make you feel like you don't need religion to feel okay. You just need to get rid of all the problems and you'll be fine. So you need to be able to distinguish between my religious questions and background, and you know, maybe doubts, and sort of my mental health being a place where I need help. And you need to be able to understand the difference between the two before you commit to something that might put you in trouble.
Okay, let me just add to that. Let me give you an example. Even everybody says this, even non-Muslims say it, we say it, everything happens for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and we believe that ultimately Allah is in control of everything. So if something bad happens to me, and I don't have the understanding that Allah is the best of planners, or I'm going to learn something from this or benefit from this in some way, and if I don't see that, is that going to be a problem for me when it comes to my faith? What do you think?
Yeah, so I think that your understanding of person's understanding of faith needs to be reinforced. So if you're going to feel like I'm going through difficulties because God doesn't like me or he's punishing me, you're going to end up feeling like, oh, okay, I'm a bad person. You're going to cave yourself, and everything that you feel is going to be negative. There's a connection there between what you feel and what you know about religion. So for example, if you're taught growing up that Allah loves people and he's merciful, Allah is ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, you're going to feel that even when you're going through trials and tribulations. However, if you've been taught that, oh, God is only there for, he's here to give you pain and tribulations and punishment, when you're going through difficult times in life, you're going to feel like that it's happening because you're a bad person, blah 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 blah, etc. So it's about maybe restructuring how you like the faith for yourself. Like it's here the faith is there to help you, not to bring you down. It's there to uplift you, not to bring you down. Similar to what you said about rizq, and rizq is Allah has destined things for us and you'll get what you want, but at the same time religion is here to uplift you, not bring you down. I think that's important.
Brilliant, thank you. Zara, do you have anything to say in Fatima, and then we're going to have just closing comments? We want to keep it within an hour, so anything, Zara, you want to say?
I think with the mental health thing, and I think someone commented it, and I think it's a really good point, is there's no shame in going to get professional help if you think that you've got a problem. Because I mean, professional help can be, for example, Salma's a counselor, right? And I'm pretty sure she wouldn't turn around and say to someone, oh, you're having a midlife crisis, go on holiday. Like, I'm pretty sure she wouldn't say things like that. But if it's someone who's going to help you, give you advice, whether it's worldly advice or advice based on deen, at the end of the day, it's not transgressing against the word of Allah. If you can go for therapy, go for therapy. Like, I know people have gone for therapy and they found that it's made a world of difference. A therapist might turn around and say that, again, you're spending too much time on social media comparing to other people. Maybe you've got a bad relationship with your family, or you need to maybe try reading the du'as and stuff. Not that someone saying to read the du'as can be a bad thing. Obviously that can never be a bad thing, but you can get that through therapy. Someone can say that to you whilst going for therapy sessions. So I think it's the best of both worlds. If you go to someone and say, oh, I have this anxiety problem, and they say, okay, what do you think the root of that anxiety problem is? And you say it's, I don't know, stress from school or from uni or something like that. They might say, okay, eliminate the problems, try and do breathing exercises, but on top of that, read this dua. Both of them work the same. Both of them are, one of them is based on deen and doing something that Allah has asked you to do, which is making dua, which He said will help you, and one of them is practical advice. Neither is wrong, but both I think will be beneficial. So I think there's no right or wrong answer saying that, oh, you can't just say dua and you have to take practical advice, and then you can't just say, oh, practical advice will never work. Both things can work as long as you the individual situation and see if it works.
And Fatima, anything on mental health? And then we're just going to close up with some comments from all of you. Anything, Fatima, on that?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. You should take advantage of both, faith and, therapy and counseling. And in terms of therapy and counseling, if you're, you don't want anyone to know, it can be secretive as well. As long as you're making the effort to try and deal with whatever issues you feel like you have, I think you should definitely find a solution in Islam, and also practically through advice from a therapist. And I don't think that it should be, sorry, my microphone keeps muting.
It's all right. It's all right. I agree. I mean, my experience has been friends and family really make a huge difference. Speaking to somebody is really important. But we could go on and on about this, but thank you for that feedback. It's really, really useful, I'm sure. And Salma, could you just recommend any counselors locally, any organizations that you want to?
For sure. So I've been working with Sakoon Council, Islamic
Sakoon Counseling.
Yeah,
SAKOON. Is it?
Yep, that's right.
If you Google it, yeah. Sakoon Counseling. Okay, just now, just at the end, it's really amazing because everybody stayed on. So you guys have been really engaging, mashallah. There's nobody left the channel. So it's great. And people are still joining. So mashallah, that's all down to all three of you. Can we just have just your closing comments on what solutions we need to offer, or what you would recommend to any young person or parent listening right now? Say anything you like, say 3 points if you want, for parents, youth who are listening, anything you want to say, closing comments about life as a young woman. So let's start with Fatima. Again, we'll go that way. Fatima, yeah.
I think it's very, very, very important to keep the right company. I think with a lot of things in life, it does come down to the right company, you know, having the right friends. Because obviously, you know, if you have the right friends, you're going to be going towards a more positive lifestyle. You know, it's not only, you know, boys, and you're going to be focusing on the right things. Yeah,
So
I
friends,
definitely think.
friendship, brilliant advice, great advice. Anything else? Parents, families, any advice? No? Okay. Zara, any closing comments from you?
So yeah, I think the first thing is if you I'm a true believer of, if you have good intention, Allah sees those intentions, Allah helps you. So if you keep your intentions pure, no matter what your problem is, it can be mental health, it can be marriage, it can be peer pressure, it can be family problems, your intention, Allah will guide you to what's best for you. And just keep reaffirming your intention, keep saying, Allah, this is what I want in life, you tell me if this is right, you tell me this is wrong, and inshallah He will guide your heart. Second thing is, I think, talk to people. I know you were saying, like, I know, I mean, I'm only 23 years old, so I don't know how much parents can talk to me and stuff, but if you ever need to talk to somebody, just find somebody. It can be one of us. I mean, I'm sure you can get my contact information from somewhere, but if it's just someone that you just want to like relieve like your stress from, and just say, look, I just need to talk to somebody, and you might find a wasila through someone. And I think it's important thing is not just to keep it in yourself, because again, that's where the only person who will listen to you is shaitan. And if you don't find your sort of other ways to sort of like talk about these things, I think it'll be quite difficult for you. And
Great.
yeah, I hope I didn't say anything to offend anybody and stuff as well, and inshallah.
No, you didn't offend anybody at all. You only helped everyone, mashallah. Okay. Salma, any closing comments?
Just to echo what Zara and Fatima said, so keeping good friends, you know, communicating, that's so important. Being smart about looking for help. So if you're going through mental health issue, if you're feeling a certain way, depressed, anxious, being smart about how you look for help. And I think that was highlighted today in our mental health discussion. Make sure you do your research and who you go and ask for help for, because when you're vulnerable, people can really misguide you. So be careful in that sense, especially if you're young and vulnerable, you're really going to be a victim to a lot of people who want to misguide. And I think just know that your family, your parents, they want the best for you. So just try and trust in Allah first, and then, you know, make continuous dua, have tawakkul in Allah, and that He will guide you to the right path. And yeah, that'll be my closing statement.
Thank you so much. Jazakallah khair. Let's make dua for these three young daughters of ours, these young women who really, I think they've helped us with their insights. So pray for them and pray for everybody that attended today. And we pray that Allah give us the guidance and support to help our youth, and especially those that are more ignored and neglected are the women. So thank you so much to everybody who attended. This is on YouTube, so you can share it if anybody missed it. And I'll see you next time. The next topic is actually sex, drugs, and Muslim youth. So that's the next one, and I'll post it out and share it. If you're not on the WhatsApp group, just leave your number here and I'll add you, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Take care. Thanks, everybody. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you.